After a 32-year professional career, leading teams, leading plants, making decisions where my opinion matters, last week I stood in front of a group of 17-year-old high school seniors to talk about careers. And I realized something sobering. I was irrelevant on many levels. Like I said, maybe I didn't say this. I was given a talk on careers to these seniors, the great kids, smart. Some appeared bored, sitting at their desks like this, leaning back, slouching. Sometimes, a few of the kids were excited. But this talk is not about them at all. They're great kids. But I shared my career stories, what projects I worked on, what I liked about my job, the promotions. I talked a little bit about leadership. I talked about starting a consulting business. But I noticed something, their eyes kind of glazed over. They were not being rude. It just didn't matter to them. I was irrelevant. They did need help deciding upon their career. Their parents were wearing them out. It was the fall semester, so they had, in another 6-8 months, they needed to decide what they were going to do, what was the next step in their life. And my resume just meant nothing to them. They were interested in what I could give them to help them decide. But the jobs I had, the decisions I made, my whole career, meaningless to them. I'm laughing because I have been retired for 7 years, and I was at peace with all this. I understood. I didn't take this as a blow to my ego. I just said, "Oh, wow, this is stark." This would have been dramatic for me probably the day I would have actually retired. I did alter my talk significantly for the next 2 classes. I had 3 classes. I was teaching many more stories and decision-making questions, what questions they need to ask themselves about their career, what they like. Um, that was the next 2 classes were far better, but the first class, the speaker, it was terrible. I was the speaker. So I've spent decades working hard, building skills, creating value. Then suddenly, it doesn't matter. It's the hard truth. For years, relevance in my life was built in. It was part of my career. It was who I was. It was my job title, my experience, what I've done, the accomplishments. I had a seat at the table. People listened, respected, and now I'm just Joe. I'm just Joe. It's not that I'm failing now. It's just a different reality that retirement brings. But it can hit you hard. Looking out my window and see what's going on. The workplace gave me borrowed relevance. This is something I read recently. Borrowed relevance. The moment you step away, the relevance disappears. No one asks for my advice, so I have to make YouTube videos. Okay. Nobody checks on my opinion before making decisions. The emails stop. The meetings vanish. The world keeps moving, and I'm on the sidelines. It can feel lonely at times. Not so much now. I'm approaching 7 years retired, but it's a big deal early on. And if I wouldn't have done my consulting and like I'm doing YouTube now, it probably would impact me a lot more. I'm 61 years old. I still feel like I have some things to contribute, but I'm okay with it because it forced me to confront something. When I retired, my identity is not my job, and I love being just Joe. I thought about naming my channel that, Just Joe. A lot of feedback I got when I was from you, the audience, on that, Just Joe. And here's the hard part. It's your identity. It's your identity. What is my identity, Joe? For decades, I was respected for getting results, problem solving, leadership, developing people. I was needed. And now that's all disappeared. And we have to ask the hard questions. Who am I now? How can I contribute? Do I still matter? These are uncomfortable questions. Okay. So here's the good news. Okay. Relevance doesn't retire when you retire. It just changes. It evolves. You get to create it. Okay. One, my job title stopped, but my value doesn't. I can share my wisdom and perspective through, in the just the daily interactions I have. Yesterday, I was painting for 8 hours for Habitat for Humanity while we were building a house, and 3 homeowners were there. People, they have to contribute 500 hours towards their house, and they can do that. They can do that in other people's houses. So we were painting this house that there's 3 owners, but none were the owner of the particular house we're in because they were just putting in their hours. Great people. And they asked me a lot of questions about my career and money. And we asked about families. It was great. And I think I was relevant in the lives of those 3 ladies. Number 2, I mentioned this earlier, relevance is borrowed. Meaning is built. What meaning am I building right now? Meaning in my kids' life, my grandkids, my friends, neighbors, my YouTube community. What meaning am I leaving? Am I inspiring anybody with my content? I've told you dozens of times before, I love when people send me a comment saying, hey, I retired confidently because of you, Joe. I retired 1 year earlier, 2 years earlier, 4 years earlier because I listened to your content. That's very inspiring. Keep the content, the comments coming. Comments are my only feedback. I'm talking to myself in a room. Okay, I've got Yoda back there, but my impact has a new audience. It's my community. It's my family. It's the next generation. That's why I love going to a local college. I speak there about lean and operations management, and going to the high school and talking about careers. I love doing that, trying to give them a little insight. Now, hey, I met with about 100 kids, and I'm going to meet with another 100 coming up to hit the whole senior class. And if I was impactful to one kid, it was worth it. It was worth the feeling of being insignificant. Okay. Ego needs a new job. My ego needs a new job. Stop craving to be needed. I'm just Joe. And, if I exercise during the day and interact with a couple people and give them a little wisdom if they ask for it, and help without being asked, mentoring people. I enjoy mentoring a few people. I help them make resumes, help them get a job. I volunteer a lot. I do teaching. I explain that, at the high school and one university. I get that satisfaction of doing. My giving has shifted from just giving money, which my wife and I still do, to giving my time. And it's so cool in retirement. Instead of giving a check to somebody, you can paint their house and meet the owner. Okay. I enjoy going and mentoring the high school kids. Even though the first class of these high school seniors was rough, I didn't, get all flustered, or I didn't have an ego setback. I was just like, it was just like a bucket of water was dumped over my head. Oh, that's right. I'm irrelevant. I need to meet these kids where they are. What's in their mindset? What do they need? They need something to tell their mom and dad. Let's be honest. Something to tell their mom and dad they're excited about. This is going to be my career. I'm going into the military. I'm going to be a mechanic. I'm going to a 4-year college degree to be an engineer. It's a lot of freedom. It's a lot of freedom. That's how I look at retirement, is total freedom to develop my relevance myself. How do I want to be relevant? I volunteer on the Parks Board. That's time consuming. I don't have to prove my worth anymore, but I get to define it through my actions. So yes, these 17-year-olds don't care about my career. That's okay. My relevance to them isn't the point. The point is I still have perspective and wisdom and skills to offer people that ask for it. I still have insight. Relevance doesn't retire. Okay, that's my point today. It evolves, and it evolves to what you want it to be, and it can change several times in retirement. I define where I want to be relevant. One of the areas that I'd like to be more relevant is with my faith life. I've talked about that a little bit. Many of you know or have been able to deduce that I am a Christian. I am Catholic, and I love spending time on my faith. I'd say a third of my time on YouTube is studying my faith. But I get to define that. Okay, I get to define that. So I'd love to hear from you. How are you finding relevance in your retirement? Or if you're not retired, how do you plan to find relevance? Because it's a big deal. It's a major shift. It's Joe out.